Hello my loves, welcome back to another video. I have not been online in a hot minute in a video form. So I'm really excited to be here today to be sharing my journey recently, I guess, with manifestation and reflecting a lot on my own journey with manifestation. So I'm going to be posting this video out to YouTube, to Instagram, and maybe I'll be doing some things on TikTok. I'm also now on TikTok as well. You can find me as Stef Coaching. You can find me on all places: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok as Stef Coaching. But I'm going to be sharing this out in these different places. So, all right, I'm going to just get into it. Maybe some people on Facebook will be able to join me live. If not, I hope that you get to catch the replay if you feel called to watch this video, and I hope that you get something out of it. And I really don't have any specific intention for this video other than sharing my own experience, and I hope that you really just get something out of it and learn from any mistakes I've made, and that it just supports you in some kind of way with your own manifestation journey. So if this is your first time tuning into one of my videos, if you're not super familiar with me yet, my name is Stef and I'm the Psychic Soul Alignment Coach. Basically, what I do is I work with spiritual people and spiritual entrepreneurs to help them to do very deep levels of healing, known as inner work, shadow work, in order to help them powerfully align with who they truly are on a soul level, on a spiritual level, on a higher self level, okay? And so as my clients really connect more deeply to who they really are, they're then able to create success in life much more effortlessly. And that's been such a journey for me as well, being the Psychic Soul Alignment Coach and having to do this work for myself. And stepping into greater levels of soul alignment, higher self-alignment has been just absolutely powerful. I've had to release a lot of egoic things and in order to really align with my truth. And so this is kind of connected to what I want to share today on manifestation. So real quick, okay, I want to kind of give you a little bit of my backstory if you're not familiar with my whole situation here. Okay, so first and foremost, I am from Peru. I was born here, but when I had just turned 4, I moved to the US with my parents. They took me over there. Now, long story short, my parents went to the US legally, but then they ended up losing their legal status and they became undocumented immigrants in the US, and that resulted in me also being an undocumented immigrant. I didn't know about my status until I was 14 and freshman year of high school, and that's when I found out, I realized. And then a year or so after I graduated high school, ICE showed up at my house, which is, what does ICE stand for? I don't know, but they're the people that handle immigration. And they showed up at my family's home, and long story short, they basically required my mom and I to comply with them and to follow through with these proceedings to be removed from the country. So we had to go about this process of getting our, affairs in order, our legal documentation and stuff in order so that we could go back to Peru. So in 2009, I came back to Peru. And I've been living here in my home country since then for the most part. And I did live in Europe for a year, and I, went location dependent and started traveling to these other places as well. But for the most part, I have lived in Peru since 2009. And, it's been such a big desire of mine to go back to the US because I have 2 younger brothers that are, US citizens, and they live there, and I haven't seen them in 12 years now. It's going to be 12 years this like at the end of this month, actually. It's crazy. And, there's just other relatives and close friends and, things that people that are important to me, and I haven't been able to see them since then. So it's been a big desire of mine to go back to the US. And, for a really, really long time, I thought it was going to be really impossible for me to go back because of the very fact that my legal situation in the US was complicated. It wasn't like most normal people, I had things on my record because of just the decisions that my parents had made and how that in turn affected me, and then, going through these removal proceedings and stuff. And so it wasn't easy necessarily for me to just, go take the relevant requirements to the US Embassy here in Peru and just request a tourist visa and be on my way. Like, it wasn't that simple. And so for a really long time, I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to go back anytime soon, that there were these crazy insurmountable obstacles placed against me to try to go back. And, it was very difficult for me because, like, no matter what the state of the US right now is and what's going on there, like, the US is one of my homes, and I'm very much connected to, American culture. And I think that not being able to go back just triggered such deep core wounds inside of me that made it feel even worse. And so in my mind, I just felt like, oh my God, like now I have to wait 10 years to go back. And even then, I have to try to like meet all these requirements to go back. And how am I going to be able to do that? How am I going to be able to get all these things in order for the people at the US Embassy to approve me and to get in? And, like, will I ever get to go back? Will I ever get to go over there and see my brothers there and, participate in family gatherings and things there? Or will I continue to miss out? And just so many things, So that just led me to believe like I just was never going to be able to return. And then I guess maybe like in 2018 or so, once, I gained traction with my coaching business and I started doing really well, and I started seeing, just how powerful I was. I started learning a lot more about like manifestation techniques and manifesting deliberately and all these different things. Like, I started believing like, what, it's possible. Like, I can go back. I will be able to return. I'm going to manifest it. And it became one of my intentions to manifest going back. But what I teach my students or my clients is that, and anyone watching, is that you can intend for something, but if you're not ready for it, or if you don't believe it, then it's not going to show up. And so even though it was such a deep desire of mine, especially in 2018, and I started believing in the possibility of being able to return, even though I didn't know exactly how I would make that happen yet. I set it as an intention. I was like, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. And, I think it was even last year that I decided, like, I know I'm going to return, and I'm going to set my Instagram location to San Diego because I feel pulled to go to San Diego for some reason. I want to go there. I've never been there. But I did that as a little manifestation hack to kind of, every time I went into my account or something and I saw San Diego, it would kind of remind me like that's where I'm going. That's where I'm tending to go. Like, I'm already digitally like claiming it and I will eventually be there physically. And so that's what I did. But, if you've been following me recently, then you know that last week here in my Facebook community, I have a Facebook community. So if you're watching on YouTube, the links will be in the comments of this video pinned at the top for you to click on all my relevant social media links. And so I talked about how last week I started having conversations with lawyers, immigration lawyers. I spoke to 2 lawyers. And so that kind of really prompted me to kind of start reflecting on, moving back to the US and manifesting it and just so many things, and having certain realizations now about why my dream to move back to the US didn't happen sooner. And, basically I was just getting in my own way and I didn't realize it. And so I realize now, looking back on everything, that, because they say hindsight is 20/20. So you realize things like long after sometimes the fact. But I realize now that even though back in 2018, when I believed like, okay, I will be able to go back, and I'm going to put it out there, I now recognize that even though I believed it was possible, I was still so very much focused on all the obstacles in my way, like all the challenges, because I was like, but what if I don't find a good lawyer? What if I find someone that takes my money and doesn't do anything for me to move me forward, Or, what if the lawyer asks me for certain things that I can't meet yet, certain requirements I can't meet yet? Or what if this? And I was just so focused on all the ways in which things could go wrong, or things that made me feel super uncertain and scared, because I really didn't trust. I really didn't trust God, source, whatever you call the higher power. I didn't really believe truly that, the greater being here would make the way for me, would align me with the right people, would make it happen for me. Like, I was still so desperately in need of control. I needed to know everything. I needed to know it was going to be okay. I needed to, have everything in order and have that to make me feel secure, to finally believe like this is going to work out for me. And of course, it didn't work out that way, because God needed to teach me to let go of being a control freak and a bunch of other things. And so it's really interesting, because last week I had meetings with these couple of lawyers, and it's just so mind-boggling to me, because each lawyer is charging basically the same for my case, even though they're from completely different states. They're charging basically about the same for my case, to do my paperwork. And then on top of that, they're both really, really good lawyers, highly effective, have gotten people to have good resolutions in spite of certain difficulties or challenges that they've had with their cases. And then on top of that, it was just really interesting to me, because even these lawyers' names, they're both female, and both of their first names have 3 syllables in it, and both of their last names have 2 syllables in it. And I just really started reflecting and being like, wow, like, God wants me to go back to the US so strongly, and basically sent me the same person but in 2 different people. Like whatever path I chose, let's imagine I'm at the fork in the road, and no matter what path I choose, it's still going to lead to me going back to the US, and I'm still going to move forward. And like, I don't have to worry about anything, because I finally reached this point where it's time for me to return. I'm really aligned with it, and God is just giving me like all the right people to show up for me and like help me make this happen. And so no matter who I choose, I'm going to win anyway. And so I've just been reflecting, because I'm like thinking, okay, so why didn't this happen sooner? It didn't happen sooner because, like I said, I was focused on all the ways in which, I didn't think it was going to work out, or all the fears I had. I needed to be in control. I didn't really trust and believe in source to make it happen for me. So all of these things just kept me out of alignment, no matter how desperately, I really wanted this desire of mine. I kept taking myself out of alignment. So it's just really interesting, as I reflect on this whole situation. And I see that, like, me returning to the US is closer than I can even imagine. And it's working out even better than what I thought I could get. Like, I thought that the best that I could do was get a tourist visa or some kind of like maybe business visa, because that, our ego minds are always trying to predict everything, control everything, and tell, source how to do things. That's what we do as humans. And so in my mind, my ego, the best that it could come up with was, okay, you're either going to get a tourist visa or a business visa, and like that's the best that you can do, and hopefully you meet the requirements by the time you decide to do this, and file your paperwork or whatever to the embassy. Like, hopefully you meet these things and they let you still go to the US in spite of your record or whatever. But, God is working it out even greater and better than I could have ever imagined for me, because it turns out that I actually can pursue a pathway of getting my green card, my permanent residence card in the US because of things that I went through in the US. And so it's even better than just going on some kind of like tourist visa or business visa. Like, I actually have the possibility of going and actually staying permanently and living there and just having like a straight pathway to citizenship that's, so much more direct and shorter than all the other avenues I could have taken on my own. And so it just really makes me reflect, like, all this time my ego is just thinking like, this is the best that I could do, this is what I'm aiming for, God, please come through. And because I didn't trust and believe and I didn't surrender and I didn't allow God to really show up in my life, like, it just wasn't working out. It wasn't working out because I was taking myself out of alignment, but also because that's not the pathway that Source wanted me to take. Source wanted me to take this more permanent path. And it's only been this year, that I finally surrendered my control and I am in deeper communion with God and I trust so much more easily and I surrender and I just allow the path to unfold, and I'm no longer getting in my way anymore. I'm no longer fixated on all the way in which things could go wrong and all the obstacles or whatever that could potentially arise. Like, I'm not focused on that anymore. So because I'm not focused on that, finally I've aligned with not just one lawyer, but like 2 lawyers that are really great, charging the same. Their names have the same syllables, both first and last name. They're really great at like getting hard cases approved or moved through, in positive resolutions, and both offering me to have a more permanent pathway to moving to the US. And so I think it's interesting because we all have that possibility, to realize the things that are so deeply important to us. But a lot of times we struggle with realizing those things that are so near and dear to our hearts because we're so focused on all the wrong things. Instead of focusing on the excitement and the joy that our manifestations will bring us, and the happiness and the well-being and whatever else, we're focused on all the things that scare the crap out of us around that, like not being able to realize it, having people, get in the way of it, or whatever it is. Like, we're focused on all the challenges and the obstacles, and we take ourselves out of alignment. And we try to predict and control, how it's supposed to happen. Like, it's interesting too, because like, that's what I teach my clients too in the past. Like, when I've taught manifestation, is like, you just got to be open to all the ways in which money can show up or whatever, and I understand that and I get that. But when it came to this thing, it was just so important to me. I was just so fixated. Like, I had tunnel vision. Like, this is the best that I can do. Like, this is how I'm going to return to the U.S. is like one of these visas, and that's it. And I'm working towards that, and now I'm just like, oh my God, like I just wasted all that time. I didn't even have to do that. I could have just been like, hey God, I want to go to the US. Make it happen. Bring me the right lawyer. Give me the right pathway. Work your miracles. Let it be. And, I struggled for a really, really, really long time to really lean into that because it was just so important to me, and I held on to it so strongly. Like, this desire to go to the US, it was just so important to me, and I was just so attached to it, and I wasn't letting go. And it's been in this last year especially that I've surrendered so much more, and I let go so much more, and now I can just be like, whatever is meant to happen, whenever it's supposed to show up, whatever, like, I'm all good. I'm going to keep living my best life. I know now inside of me, like, I know I'm there. And it's just a matter of waiting. It's just a matter of letting things like work out the way that they need to. But I know that I'm there. Like, there's no doubt anymore. There's no fear of it not happening anymore. Like, I'm there, and I'm just going to keep living my life and let it happen. And so that's the thing, is that the things that are just so important to us, like, we're so attached to it. We're holding tight to it because we're like, please make this work. And, we're just so afraid of it not working or being disappointed or whatever. And we're focusing more of our time and energy on that than what we actually really want. And then we sit there and question, like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? It's because you're focused on all the wrong things. So I've just kind of been laughing a little bit at myself, just kind of reflecting on all of this, just laughing at myself, because I was like, oh my God, like, why didn't I see this? Why didn't I see, like, I know manifesting, I know manifesting techniques and knowledge and these things, and like, why didn't I realize that for a long time? Like, why did it take me this long to realize that I was screwing it all up for myself? So I just kind of laugh at myself, now that I see this. It's been such a learning curve, I guess, or a learning experience. That's the word. It's been such a learning experience for me, for things moving forward that are really near and dear and important to me, to learn to freaking relax, because God has got it all under control and it's all okay, and to just allow it to work out the way it needs to, right? So that's kind of like what I wanted to share with you today. I really hope that this has helped you in some kind of way. Is your desires are yours, especially the things that are so important to you, that are so close to your heart, that mean so much to you. They're yours, but you got to really take a step back and recognize, like, what are you focusing your energy and attention on when it comes to your manifestation? Are you focused on the realization of that manifestation, or the lack of realization of that manifestation? Are you focused more on the obstacles that you could potentially encounter along the way, or are you focused on all the good breaks and the opportunities and how things are flowing and working out for you? Are you focused more on trusting the creator or the source that all that is to provide you an infinite number of pathways? Or are you trying to figure it out, and are you tightly holding on to the handful of pathways that your ego, your mind can only conceive, and just gotta, like, give it up to the greater power. Give it up to the greater power. And it's taken a journey for me, like I said, to really lean into that on so many levels. Like, every time I have flown out to another country, you have no idea. I think it's really because of this whole situation with immigration in the US. Probably past life stuff, who knows? But, like, every time I thought about, like, flying somewhere, I always had this feeling like, oh my God, what if they deport me? What if they send me back? What if I get to the airport and they make me turn back around and get back, to wherever I came from? And it's the craziest thing. I've shared many different of these, like, stories over the years, but, like, the first time I left Peru and I went to Costa Rica, I read somewhere online that I needed a yellow vaccine shot, and I needed to have the little proof. And that shot you get like 10 days before you fly out. And my trip was actually a trip that I manifested out of the blue. It was like a 2-week paid vacation in Costa Rica, and it manifested out of the blue, and my ticket was bought like within like the week before I needed to leave. And so even if I wanted to get that vaccine, there was no way I was going to get the vaccine in time for, for me to meet the requirements. And so the people at the airport could have probably just told me, like, no, it hasn't been the 10 days yet. You have to come back in like 3 days and like get a whole new ticket or something like that. They could have told me that. But also, me personally, I'm not for vaccines. for me, okay, you do you. I will support you. But for me, I'm like, no, we're not doing vaccines. And I was like freaking out and stressed out because I was trying to find other ways to get around this vaccine business. If you know what I mean, low key, you know how we do in Latin America, but that didn't work out either. And then, it ended up that when I finally arrived at the airport, that day I needed to leave, I was like, you know what, Stephanie, you're gonna get there. If they ask you about any vaccine stuff, you just act like you didn't know anything. You don't have to lie. I don't like lying people, okay? But I was like, this is the one time you gotta lie. You just be like, what? Vaccine? What? No, I didn't know. And hopefully they let you get on. And so I get there, and I had been told, as per, a mentor at the time, the spirit guides were like, I don't have to worry about the vaccine. It's going to be okay. But I didn't believe and trust in this. I didn't believe and trust in the guidance. And so me, human me, was like trying to figure out other ways to get around this vaccine business, but that didn't work out either. So then I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to play dumb like I don't know anything. I get there. The lady that's checking me or whatever, she's like, oh, do you have your yellow vaccine card thing or whatever? And I was like, what? No, I didn't know we needed this. And she was like, well, hold on a second. Let me ask my coworker if you need to have the vaccine thingy. So she goes and talks to this person, comes back. She's like, oh, okay, Peruvians don't need to have the yellow vaccine anymore to travel to Costa Rica. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. It worked out. And I was like, oh my God. Like, the spirit guide said I didn't need to worry about the vaccine. And they were right. But I didn't believe. And I'm over here trying to fix it and make it happen and like do these things. And I didn't need to go through all that trouble and put myself at risk trying to do these things. So, and then when I got to Costa Rica, I landed in Costa Rica. They also asked me for this thing as well. But then by that point, I was like, no, they told me in Peru I didn't need this anymore. You know, we're exempt from this. And then they were like, okay, hold on, we're going to check. Oh, yeah, you're right. You don't need this anymore. And I was like, oh, my God, you know. But, like, that was one time I was afraid of getting sent back to Peru. And I didn't need to be afraid. And then, you know, God has been helping me to overcome this fear again and again and again to prepare me to go back to the U.S. Because, like I said in my mind before, I had it drilled in my head. I believed, like, I can't make it back to the U.S. I have, like, this record. All of this stuff is against me. It's really hard. These immigration people are just going to find any kind of reason to get me, you know, to get sent back or whatever. And I had, like, all these beliefs. And so that I've had to play it out again and again in different travels to work through that and process that and finally get me ready to go back to the U.S. And so that was like one time in Costa Rica. Then when I went to Europe, also the same thing too. Oh my God, that trip was so stressful. You'll have no idea. Okay, we have to like recount the story. I don't even know if anyone is commenting right now because I can't see any comments. So if you're commenting, I can't see your comments. But I went to Europe for a retreat, and long story short, I got my plane ticket and I didn't get to make it to the airport in time because I had to drop my cat off at my dad's and he lives far away, and I didn't make it back in time. By the time I finally got through the airport, like my plane was probably like just taking off. I was so upset because traffic was really bad at night. Like I had never traveled at night. I didn't know how bad it was. It took me like 2 whole hours just to try to get from where I was to the airport. And it normally takes like maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes at the most. So I missed my flight. And then I had to I was just stressing out because I had already paid all this money for the retreat, all this money for the flight. It was like, almost $4,000. And like, I was like, do I have to pay for another flight? Like in full, like, oh my God, I was just stressing out about it. And I was just like crying, literally crying, because I was just like, oh my God, like if I can't get on this flight, all that money is just wasted. Like I'm not going to get a refund for this retreat. I'm not going to get a refund for this flight. Like all of it's just wasted. And I was just so sad and so devastated. And I just couldn't understand, like, God, why have you forsaken me? I should be an actress. But I was just like, why? I went home so depressed because they were like, there's nothing we can do for you tomorrow. Come back, or tonight, come back tomorrow. Let's see if we can get you, on another flight. I went home, I cried it out, journaling it all out, just getting it out of my system. And then I'm just doing my best to like let go, surrender, trust, all the things. And then the next day I go back early to the airport and I can't find an office. They told me there was an office there. There was no office. It was crazy. Long story short, finally in the afternoon, like 2 o'clock or something, they managed to let me know, like, oh yeah, we can get you on another flight, a direct flight, because my first flight was like, it had a stopover or layover. But this one was like, we can get you a direct flight, and I think it was like almost $500 more that I had to pay. So I was like relieved because I didn't have to pay like another $1,600, but still it was like another $500. And I was like, oh my God. And then I'm like, you know what, fine, and that goes through. And then I get to go check in, and the check-in lady's like, oh, do you have your travel insurance? And do you have your thing, for your accommodations printed out or whatever, like where you're going to be staying? And I was like, what? No? What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, for Peruvians to travel to Europe, in addition to like the new modern passport, you need to have these other things to be able to enter the country. Otherwise, if you board the plane and when you land in France, you might be at subject to deportation if the immigration officials feel like you are a risk or whatever, because you don't have like the proper things to state. And then I was like, oh my God, why? And so I had to like get insurance, and luckily there was an insurance booth there, and I got that. And then I didn't have the itinerary for where I was going to be staying. I knew I was going to be landing in France and leaving from Amsterdam, but I didn't know what was going to happen in between. Like, that was just going to be an adventure. Like, I was going to let the universe just take me wherever I needed to go. And so, and then on top of that, I didn't have anywhere to print the stuff out, at. So anyway, I was just like, you know what, I got to risk it. I'm going to go. And the lady told me, like, clearly, you might get deported. You might get sent back. So I was like, okay, fine. So I'm there, I board the plane, I'm on the plane, I'm just trying not to freak out, not to worry or whatever. I'm watching my movies, I go to sleep, I wake up 30 minutes before we land, and when the little, thing comes on, it's like, oh, we're gonna land in France. All of a sudden, my legs were shaking. I was like, shaking, like I never ever had this experience. I was shaking. I was trying to write in my journal all my fears out, all my things out, like trying to purge all of this stuff out, not to freak out. And then I get through like the line, I get my luggage or whatever. I'm going through customs or whatever. No, customs? Whatever, immigration. And then I go to the left, and I see that the immigration officers look a little bit mean. They're not very friendly. All of a sudden, I hear right. So then I'm like, right? I was like, right? You want me to go to my right, spirit guides? So then I go to like the other line, but then I'm looking at the immigration officers, and I'm like, these people don't look nice either. They look meaner than the people on the left. But if I go back to the left, to the line on the left, those people are going to think I'm suspect because I'm like going back and forth like a crab. And then something in me kind of told me to like look even more to my right, and I noticed like there was like this low-key other little line that I hadn't noticed, and the officers there looked nicer. So then I was like, oh, I'm supposed to go here. And then I was there, and I was like, okay, listen, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go up there, I'm gonna talk to them in French, because the French love it when you talk to them in French. So I'm gonna be like, hey, hello, da-da-da. And then because I have my old metro tickets from the last time I was in Paris, because I lived in Europe 1 year, and I still have my little metro tickets, I'm going to pull this metro ticket out, and I'm going to be like, hey, in French, do you know if this metro ticket still works? Because I got this back in, this year, and I don't know if it still works. And then, I'm just going to like talk to them about how I lived in Europe before, whatever, so that they know that I am not at risk of staying in the country illegally, and I will return. And I was just like, I had it all planned out in my head. So then it's my turn to like go up, and I go up to this person, and I'm, talking to them in French or whatever, and I do the thing, and then the guy was like, oh, I don't know if it works. And he was like, oh, your French is good. And I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah, I lived in Belgium and this and that. And I'm talking to him, and I'm just like going, on and on and on, talking in French. And then he was just like, had my passport open, had the little stamp in his hand, and he was just listening to me. He wasn't even looking at me. And then, I'm just talking. He's like, oh, so why are you here? I'm like, oh, business. I'm attending this retreat. And da-da-da. And I'm just talking. And then he's like, okay. He stamped my passport, returned it to me, didn't even ask me for no itinerary of like where I was going to be staying at, for how long or whatever. Didn't ask to see my travel insurance. Nothing. And he was like, have a nice trip, ma'am. And I was like, thank you, sir. As soon as I got my things, and I walked away, I was like, oh my God, I did it. I am here, and I didn't get deported. I didn't get sent back. Oh my God. That's another story, okay? I manifested getting allowed into the country when I thought I wasn't going to be able to get into the country because I didn't have all the things that they told me I was going to need to get in. And then the same kind of thing has happened to me when I've traveled to Mexico and when I traveled to Colombia. I'm always, there's this like subconscious thing around like, they're going to find an excuse not to let me in. And I get stopped always because it's in my energy, apparently. And, eventually I get through. But like, these are the different things that I've had to go through in my journey to help me understand, like, Stephanie, God wants you to go wherever you want to go. There's nothing holding you back except your own crazy ass fears and your beliefs about being stopped everywhere. And so I've had to learn to like trust in that. I also manifested not getting deported from Colombia. That was a story too I shared when that happened last year. Yeah, it was last year. I stayed by an extra month. There's a long story there. The point is that they were ready to deport me because apparently in Colombia, it's like a really, really bad thing if you stay over like even just one more day, like, or maybe like a few days, they're okay with it. But like more than maybe a couple days or something, it's like a big deal and you could be banned from going to Colombia for a really long time. So don't ever do that. But yeah, I overstayed by a month. They were like trying to deport me, but I was like, no, because my guides told me, I was not going to get deported and this and that. And I was just like trusting in that or whatever. And lo and behold, like they let me go without being deported. But it's been all these different things that I've had to go through to really help me to understand, like, I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid. I have to put my trust and my faith in the Creator and to know that the Creator's gonna guide me safely from one place to the next, and that no one can ever, keep any borders or doors, whatever, closed for me. Because if God wants me to like walk through those doors or, go through this border, whatever, then God's going to make a way, a way that's for my highest good, obviously, legal ways. But, these are all the different things that I've had to go through to really help me to really believe, like, I'm going to return to the US and I need to just freaking relax and trust. But it's crazy, right? Like all of the things that we really want, they can be ours. They really can be ours. I really feel like if it's something that's really truly meaningful to us and it's important and it's close to our hearts, I really feel that the source of all that is wants that for us as well. But in order to align with that, we have to learn to get out of our own way. And when we aren't getting out of our own way because we're still holding on to, negative presumptions of how things are going to be, or just limiting beliefs, fears, whatever, like when we're not releasing those things, we're going to make it harder to align with those things much more quickly. And so the source of all that is, though, loves us and wants for us to have what's rightfully ours so much that the source of all that is will gradually lead us there, to the best of its ability. And for me, it's looked like gradually taking all these other trips, working through that fear, that insecurity, that doubt, learning to trust, learning to surrender, learning to let go, and knowing like God's going to make a way for me to go wherever I need to go, no matter what. And I need to stop thinking that all of these things have any say over whether I'm going to be able to go somewhere or not. Like the only person that has a say here is Source. And I need to just relax into that. So it's just been a powerful journey and experience for me. And I hope that it has helped you in some way hearing my crazy story. Because, yeah, like whatever's important to you, it can be yours. But you just have to kind of evaluate how have you been going about aligning with that. Are you helping yourself to align with that, or are you working against yourself? Are you aligning with the truth of all that is? Are you aligning with Source? Or are you aligning with things opposite of that? Are you aligning with fear? Are you aligning with your ego, and its concerns? So really, look at yourself much more quickly, because you are much more powerfully, because you are the creator of your reality. We're always creating our realities, and I understand that on deeper and deeper levels as I go on my own journey, but even more so with this whole like immigration situation thing. Like, I understand how I was the one keeping myself out of the US for a really, really long time, you know, because of a lot of stuff I had to work through. And because now I've worked through those things, now I've become the version of myself I need to be to return to the US. That's a match for being in the US. And now it can come in and work out for me. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I really hope that it has helped you in some way. If it has, if you got something out of this message today, I would really love to hear from you and how that related to you, and maybe something that you're manifesting or you're working on. So I would really love to hear from you in the comments below. What is something near and dear to your heart that you really want to manifest that's really important to you? And any other experiences and things that you've been working through, or maybe what this video really helped you to realize for yourself, maybe of your own manifesting journey. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this experience because it's taught me so much. And moving forward, I'm going to learn to get the F out of my way a lot more. And that's basically it. So with that said, if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up, a like wherever you're watching from. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel on YouTube, be sure to do that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find me as Stef Coaching on all the places, like I said. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I have some fun things coming up. Some things to do with manifesting, but I have to tune into my guides and just make sure I have some details and things cleared out. But I have a manifesting program coming up for you. We'll see if we do any other manifesting related things, but I'm very excited because my manifesting game is on point now that I'm in alignment at last. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you. And I send you lots of love, and I'm wishing you all the best in being able to realize your dreams and making those things that are really important to your heart and coming true. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.